I'm going to demo it on the 2016 version of NAV. And as you know, there's role centers out there. You got a sales order processor role center. You have your AP role center. So there's actually a role center for the container management piece as well. It's called our Container Transport Manager. When you look at it, the common functionalities is you get your transport order. And so by definition, a transport order is your container. For the most part, you bring in full containers, but there may be times where it may be a less than full container. Potentially consolidate it with somebody else's goods in a container. You can also bring in, based upon if it's multiple vendors and you have a freight forwarder that's consolidating everything and building out your container, it would support that as well. And then related to the transport order, which is your container, we also have our base functionality of transfer orders tied into it. So just to set everything up, what I'll show you here is you would issue your purchase orders really no different than how you issue your purchase orders today. There is only one subtle training addition or change that would have to be done. So when you look at a purchase order here, and I've got one here we're in our test company, Progressive Home Furnishings, and one of the key things is you'll notice that there's an additional field right here called Destination Location Code. And so the container management module will add that field to your POs. We're all familiar with the standard NAV location code, but then we add in the destination location code. And so the key difference when you're creating a purchase order is in the location code field, you would put a in-transit or on-the-water location code, and this is all defined by you. And you can use this for any analysis work that you want to do. So for example, let's say you have containers coming in from Taiwan, from China, from Thailand, from different parts of Asia. And you want to, at a later time, run some reports and filter upon, okay, how many containers did we have coming in from each of these ports? This allows you to analyze, okay, what routes are we taking and how many containers do we have in those routes? And if you feel you don't need to do that, then this can be just one very generic location code, just Asia to US, and you leave it at that. In this example, I broke it out and had a couple. I had Shanghai to the Port of Germany, and Shanghai to the Port of Los Angeles, Long Beach. I selected the one going from Shanghai to LA. Then your destination location code is the final physical building. So for those who are issuing the POs, nothing drastic as far as changing how you do a PO. Once you do that, you put in your items, and you'll see it also drops down here into the lines area as well. And so in this example, what I did is I created two purchase orders for our demo. This purchase order is ending in 26, and you'll see there are 3 items on it. I have an original quantity of 1,000. In addition to that, I'm going to hit next. And I have a second PO, number 27. And it's set up the same way. It's to the same vendor. Doesn't necessarily have to be, but it's the same vendor. Same location code, same destination location code. And then 3 different items. So when you look at it from a timeline perspective, I put in the PO, I sent it over to the vendor. Then it's always good practice in training that any time you get updated information back from your vendors, you'll want to update NAV accordingly. In the time where you send the PO and the vendor says, okay, hey, right now, tentatively, we're going to ship it out. And probably lead time, I would imagine, is about 4 to 6 weeks just to ship out. And so what they can do, right, they would come in here and this expected receipt date, they would just want to continuously update the expected receipt date of the PO at this time. Just so, again, salespersons, customer service, or any users, when they're looking up an item, they'll understand that, okay, hey, this item, we're expected to get it in around this time. So now let's say time has passed, and about 4 or 5 weeks later, at some point in time, the vendor provides paperwork and says, okay, hey, these POs with these items and these quantities and everything, right, because they're going to give you a packing list, they're going to give you the invoice information on what they're shipping in the container. You get that at some point in time. It's at that point in time that you would want to go ahead and create your transport order because, again, it equals your container. You can come back here to the Role Center, and you probably can't see the full verbiage, but here's your link to a new transport order. You would just click on that, and you'll have the transport order. Let's walk through this header part of it. This is the header of the container, and so you can just hit Enter to get the next container sequence, and again, you can define what numbering system you want. On the order date, it tells you when you created the container or the transport order. And because you may have various routes, you would select the paperwork I just got is going to ship out of Shanghai to LA, and it's going to go into my blue location. And you'll see as you select it, summary information comes up over here. Now you can also, at that point, A lot of times they'll at least have the customs 10+2 information there, or they may also send a bill of lading document to you, things like that. But you would know your shipping line, and this is defined by you. So let's say it's a Hanjin ship. And you have a vessel name as well, and so that'll be listed on the document. So let's say it's Blue Ocean. And then voyage, because they recycle voyages, it's what level of detail you want. The voyage, vessel name, shipping line, all that's optional. But when you have a lot of ships or containers in motion, it helps to read through the data. Container code, what type of container? A 20-foot dry container. Again, you would define this. This is a list you define. Shipment method code, just for tracking the shipment method. Then you have 4 date fields here that you would fill out. And this part here is a business requirement. What you can do is the expected shipment date is, okay, when do they expect it to ship out of that port? In our example, I'm going to put the 20th. Now, some clients, the shipment date, when they're initially putting this in, they can leave it blank, or what they do is they duplicate what they put in here, and I'll explain in a bit why. Expected customs receipt date. Now, obviously, it's not going to take 3 days to get here, but I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to maybe come here on the 23rd. And the expected receipt date, I'm going to say the 23rd as well. So now, this is based upon the initial paperwork, but sometimes what may happen is a day or two later, the shipping line themselves, sometimes they change a little bit and they say, hey, it's going to change by a day here, a day there, based upon their schedule. And so what you can do is here in the shipment date and the expected receipt date, you can treat these two like a revised date for any change or analysis purposes. So you can come in here and you can say, you know what, the shipping line updated the information and they're shipping a day later, which means I'm going to expect it to get here a day later. This just allows for some quick analysis to understand, oh, hey, you know what? It was originally this, we changed it to this, and you can run reports and metrics. This is, again, optional. At a minimum, what you want is you want this date and this date at a minimum, the shipment and the expected. And so you can always make these first two, these over here, disappear if you want from the screen. That's more like preference. You'll have your master bill of lading. Let's say MBL demo. If you have the situation where it's a less than container load, this allows the flexibility to put in a house bill of lading as well. And then you have your container number. So it could be like HDMU 456 123. Seal number is optional in case you need to track your seal number. I'm going to leave it blank for our demo. And so this is all based upon when you get the information on the paperwork. You'll notice it's in a planning status. You can keep it in a planning status if, let's say, the vendors or the information that you're getting is coming a little bit at a time. It's not coming all together. Not a big deal. You can keep it in planning. At some point, you can just escape out. And when you get more information, you can come back in here and update as you get that new information. So now it's time to build out your container. So based upon the documentation, what you would do is you would go to Get Purchase Lines. And one key part that's critical is, if you recall, in the purchase order, I mentioned that, hey, we had the location code and the destination location code. By putting it here as well, what this does is, you'll see in a moment, when I go Get Purchase Lines, it will only bring back and list those purchase orders that have that same data entry in the PO. So if something coming in the West Coast, when you go and Get Purchase Lines, it'll only list the West Coast POs, so you don't go through this long list to Get Purchase Lines. And it's filtering on just those POs. And you'll see it goes down to the line level. So you have your PO number here, the vendor number, your items, the routes. And you'll see it also lists the original quantity of 1,000. It'll list the out quantity. And this would may already be on transport orders already. And so in our example here, I had 1,000, but it knows that, hey, a quantity of one of each of these already came on a container. And so only 999 are now needing to be added on a container. Sometimes they're not going to ship all of it for a particular item. It can be partial. So there's two things you can do here. If, let's say, for example, it's the entire quantity. So in this case, let's say on this line here, you'll see my PO 26 and 27. On this line here, let's say they did ship out all 999 for me. Well, what you can do is, you'll see this column right here. Let me expand it just a bit. This is the checkbox assigned to transport order. And so what you could do is you need to checkbox it. And let's say they did ship out the 999. You'll see here in the transport order quantity to assign, I can come here and just go calculate quantity to assign, and it looks at whatever's checkbox. It assumes then the entire amount is coming. So this helps a little bit in data entry if for some reason whatever quantity is listed here, all of it is now in the container. In our case, We're going to do a partial. So what you'd want to do is you would want to first select all the items that are in the container by check marking those items and then putting in the quantities. And what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to put in a quantity of 1. And the reason I'm doing that is because later I'm going to tie back to landed cost, because we want to incorporate freight charges, customs, all that into your landed cost. So I'm just going to keep it at 1 so we can see that a little bit easier. So we build this out. When you look at it, sometimes people go, oh, I got to manually do that. I go, well, it's no difference than what they're doing on their Excel spreadsheet right now. But once you do this, everything downstream becomes 10 times easier. So once you've selected what items are shipping in the container and the quantities, you would just click on Create Transport Lines. And what that does is it brings it in. I'm going to collapse this General tab for a second. And you'll see it brings it in, and it'll list all the items with the quantities. And we've got our fact box here on the right. So if somebody ever goes into the transport order and wants to know, hey, what POs are these associated with? You'll see here there's a PO reference right here. And so as you scroll down, it changed. These items are on PO 27. So now, once you've built this out, you'll see it's still in a planning stage. And so you would release it. And that tells anybody that's looking at this transport order that the logistics considers this final based upon information, and it's a completed container and it's been released. If I'm a user and I want to know when things are coming in, what you would do is here, you would create a shortcut. You'll see here transport lines released. And so if I were to want to know, okay, an item's on the water or the container's been built out, but I need to understand the dates when it's coming in so I can start communicating to customers or understand what's available, you can click on the shortcut, transport lines released. If I go to my items, and if I go to my item here, to the item card, you'll see here we have quantity on transport orders. And so what this tells the user is these are on containers. And if they want to know the dates, they would just click on the hyperlink. And then they'll see the containers that they're on. They'll see all that date information. So you'll see it shows each and every one. The 20th was the original, 21st is revised, 23rd into the port, and 24th revised. So they can see this date information and quantity information when it's coming in.